1-2. Cut on and miss, strike three, and Arizona comes to Fenway and sweeps the Red Sox. Bad timing for Boston. Red Sox lost all three games. 7-5, the final score today.
That was a tough one because when you look back at that, going into that fourth inning, you're looking pretty. You're up 4-0. You're feeling good. And then Arizona does what they've been doing for a while since the All-Star break. Back-to-back innings in the fifth and the sixth, throwing up the 3 spot. Then again, getting that home run in the ninth to get to 7-4. O'Neill getting to 7-5, but unfortunately, Martinez shut the door on the Red Sox and got the sweep.
So I'm not sure what Kevin Youkilis meant there by shutting the door on the Red Sox, but I know what some of you were thinking. Matt McCarthy, who was just sitting alongside here a moment ago, he was certainly thinking it. He's been thinking it for a while. Cooked. OVA. Over. That the Red Sox are done. It's all over. Going into today, even so, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy Stewart, but I think going into today, the Red Sox were 4.5 games out of the wild card spot.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, they were 4.5 out before they went into Houston. Let me rephrase. After they lost the opener in Houston. In fact, a week ago at this time, roughly, they were 4.5 out. I heard people saying the same thing. It's over. The Red Sox are done. Then the Red Sox took the final 2 games of the series, and all of a sudden, hey, there's a little bit of life there. They beat a good team. They were down to 3 games at one point, and it looked like they were going to rally. Then Arizona comes in here, absolutely kicks the Red Sox asses. And again, the games are reasonably competitive. The first one was a blowout. The second 2, not as bad. But even so, the Red Sox were up 4-0 yesterday. They couldn't avoid the sweep. So here, I have a couple of questions for those of you out there tonight. The most obvious one is, are you waving the white flag? Do you now think it's over? Okay, that's number one. And by the way, phone lines are open, 617-779-0985. I know you're going to laugh at me. I don't think it's over yet, which should not be confused with I like their chances. Because I don't like their chances. I don't like the way they've looked of late. But I do have this question. Because the Red Sox just got swept by Arizona, and the series had the same vibe as the Houston series had here a couple of weeks ago, when Houston came in here and swept the Red Sox in 3 games. Then the Red Sox, the Rangers came in. The Red Sox played a little bit better, if I get my dates right and schedule right. And then after that, they went on the road. They split with Baltimore, and then they took 2 out of 3 in Houston. And I thought, okay, well, there you go. Then they come home and they get swept by the Diamondbacks. So in the 2 series here against Houston and Arizona, and there was a home series in between, but just work with me. The last 2 weekend series at Fenway Park, the Red Sox have gone 0-6. They then returned to Fenway today to finish a suspended game with the Blue Jays. It's a scheduled game tonight at Fenway, but they had a suspended game with the Blue Jays that they had to finish first. That game was in the second inning when it was suspended, and there was no score. The Red Sox lost that game today 4-1. So in their last 10 games at Fenway Park, the Red Sox are now 2-8. 2-8 in their last 10 games at Fenway. 3 against the Astros, 3 against the Diamondbacks. In between, there was 1 game against the Rangers, and now 1 against the Blue Jays. 2-8 at Fenway Park. Jimmy Stewart, how do you explain that? Is that, and again, I'm not putting you on trial. I didn't mean it to come off like you were before the Inquisition. If I were to say to you, how do you explain the Red Sox being 2-8 at home? And they've struggled at home all year. I think they're 7 games under 500 at home.
They're 29-37 at home. They're a -49 run differential. Their team ERA at home is 4.49. Now contrast that with the road, which is 38-27. They're hitting .262 as a team. They're +56 in run differential, and their team ERA is 3.19.
Okay, so their ERA is way, way better on the road by almost a 1.5 than it is at home. Okay, how do you explain that? I have a couple theories, I guess, but how do you explain that?
They're left-handed hit. They're lefty heavy in the lineup, and they're facing lefties at home. That's the only like 5,000 feet take I can take as to why they're struggling at home. They're left-handed hitting. They should be built for Fenway Park, although they don't have that right-handed hitter like a Manny Ramirez or JD Martinez who can take the ball the other way. Devers can take the ball the other way, but I honestly don't know. It's a mystery. This team should be built to win at Fenway Park, and they're just not.
Okay, so I have, I can give you a couple of theories.
The lefty thing is the only thing I can come up with.
So, but and listen, I'm not shooting holes in your argument.
No, please do.
I'm open to all kinds of theories here. I really am. I think you're on to something, but you had said that their ERA is higher at home.
Yeah, it's 4.4. It's 4.49 at home, 3.91 on the road.
Okay, so that's a big difference. That's a run and a half. I don't know. Could it be that the Red Sox don't have any left-handed starters?
Oh, like they could have used like a Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery in free agency.
I'm just asking the question because ideally what you want to do at Fenway Park, we keep hearing Fenway Park is a left-handed hitter's ballpark. It rewards left-handed hitters for staying on pitches, hitting the ball the other way. Most hitters have pull power, or any hitter with power typically has pull power. The question is whether or not you have an opposite field power. So, for example, David Ortiz became David Ortiz at Fenway Park. Yordan Alvarez likes to hit at Fenway Park. Those are lefties. They can pepper the wall. The Diamondbacks have a chunk of lefties in that lineup. Is that the issue? You don't have any left-handed pitching? Is that the deal? Is that part of it?
And if your right-handed pitchers are pitching backwards, that works against you too.
I think Alex Cora also has a theory as to why the Red Sox may be struggling right now, particularly offensively, because the Red Sox are loaded with left-handed hitters, and they didn't hit this weekend against the Diamondbacks. They didn't hit today against the Blue Jays. Now, Ryan Yarbrough came out of the bullpen today for Toronto, pitched the middle of the game. He's a lefty. Cora made a comment on that, which we'll get to in a minute. Arizona threw largely right-handed pitchers at the Red Sox, albeit good ones. Okay, so the question is, what's going on? These are two, and again, I'm open to suggestions.
Maybe the Red Sox don't cheat as well at home as they used to.
So, Jimmy, good theory. Certainly a possibility. The other teams don't need to cheat because they can hit. The Red Sox lineup's not as good as everyone thinks it is. I'm open to suggestions. Jimmy, let's start with Alex Cora, number 5, if we could. This is Cora when asked about the team's difficulties.
Do you guys are pressing on that? I don't know. I mean, it's not happening right now, to be honest with you. This is kind of like it's been going on for a while here, right? And it's most of them, they haven't been in this situation before, right? And every pitch matter, every bat matters. We just got to make sure we slow it down. And I don't know if it's pressure or just good pitching. We're better in this. We know that, and right now we're not going through a good stretch. We'll turn it around.
Okay, so again, Cora's talking about the offense there specifically. At one point today in the middle of the game, and forgive me because the game today was on the air or being played while we were on the air, Felger and Mazz, so I couldn't dissect into or delve into it as much as I would like to. At one point, I went to check to see what the pitch counts were for Toronto because I felt like the game was moving very, very quickly. And one thing the Red Sox have always emphasized, and Cora emphasizes, is good at bats. Let's have productive at bats, make the other guy work, make him come to us. I don't know if the Red Sox are doing that. They're not doing that. They're missing pitches, what have you. Again, yesterday, they were up 4-0. That game to me is almost a different entity entirely. But today, Toronto sucks. Toronto sucks. The Blue Jays have had a bad year. They were sellers at the deadline. They gave you Danny Jansen. Not that that's any big gift, but they traded away a couple of players. Kikuchi went to Houston. So they cut bait. Toronto can come in here now and kick your ass when they have nothing to play for. And I say kick your ass. It was a scoreless game until the 6th or 7th. George Springer hit a home run, and the Red Sox kind of self-destructed under Luis Garcia. Again, which is sort of another issue. It was a 1-0 game. Luis Garcia comes in, gives up 3. The next half inning, you hit a home run to make it 4-1. If Garcia could have just held his water, could have been a 1-1 game, in theory. But instead, he lets a 1-0 game turn into a 4-0 game. So are they feeling it because they're in a pennant race? Is it the quality of the opponents or the quality of the pitching? Because I look at, and again, the 8 losses that they've had at home, the last 8 in the 10 games. They're 2-8 in their last 10 at home. The 8 losses have come against Houston, 3, Arizona, 3. Those are 2 good teams. But you got swept. And you played a couple of winnable games in those series. In fact, I would argue you played 2 winnable games against Houston. You gave them away. You certainly should have won the game on Sunday against the Diamondbacks. You're up 4-0. You lost all of those. So in the 6 games against Arizona and Houston, you could have gone 3-3. You didn't. But in there, you also lost to Texas in a series finale when you could have put them away and didn't. And now you lose the conclusion of a suspended game against the Blue Jays, who stink. Not quite as bad as or the other way around. Maybe they and the Rangers are comparable. I was going to say the Rangers stink, or the Blue Jays stink worse than the Rangers. But whatever, they're in the same stratosphere. So you've lost to good teams and suck teams. Why? What is it? Is it what Cora said, the pressure? Or the good pitching on the other side? You beat good pitching in Houston. So, and I understand there are the ebbs and flows of every season. Jimmy, let's play Cora number 2 as well, if we could, please. Here's
not much happening right now. They found that lane with Yarbrough, right, with the lineup that we had against the lefties. He did his job. We put pressure on him in the 6. It just didn't happen. Right now, it's not happening for us right now.
Okay, so Cora mentions Yarbrough, Jimmy, which is the thing you're talking about. Bringing a lefty reliever to face a lefty-heavy lineup. The Red Sox have struggled against lefties all year, so maybe that's what it was. How about the rest of the weekend against the Diamondbacks when they didn't hit? Or is it just over and they're not that good? I'm open to all suggestions, all types of analysis. Bring it. You tell me. In the interim, we'll give you a highlight from today's game. I also, later on in the show, want to revisit what I would call the absolute low point of the series with the Diamondbacks, and once again leads us to question the Red Sox pitching philosophy. Marcelo Meyer shut down for the year, one of your big 3 super prospects. Lots of speculation about him. I see you calling the line him already as well. We'll do all of that tonight on the Baseball Hour. Don't go anywhere.
Vladimir with 14 RBIs in his last 7 games at Fenway. Line shot and down the line into the corner. Here comes another run. Servant is in. Horwitz hitting third. They're going to wave him in. And he will score on a double by Guerrero Jr. Man, does he beat up on the Red Sox. 3-0 Toronto. A 2-run double, a searing shot past first base.
Yeah, this is just good hitting right here. Ball up in the zone, just stays short and redirects it right past Casas at first base and down in that corner of right field, and it rattles enough. That second bounce off allowed Horwitz to score.
So this one drives me bananas too. Just as a quick note. To the 8th inning. Game's in the 8th inning. Luis Garcia comes in. Whether your team's ahead or not, can you stay engaged and just nail it down and keep the game where it is? This is like one of those, what if you're ahead and it's a save situation or a hold situation, all of a sudden it means more to you. Luis Garcia comes in and spits the bet. Same garbage. And it happened over the weekend too, which we'll get to next segment. It was a 2-0 game on Saturday. 2-0. Zach Gallen is pitching for the Diamondbacks. It's going to be a fight. But you got to scratch out a couple of runs, figure it out. But you let it get to 4-0 because you couldn't find the effing strike zone. So Garcia gives up 3 runs. Balls are getting slapped all over the ballpark. All of a sudden now you're down 4-0. So the Red Sox have let a couple of games get away from them here. That to me is frustrating. And you can chalk it up to, young versus veteran or youth versus, experience. Call it whatever you want. It's letting go of the rope. It's losing focus. That's what it is. You have a 2-0 game and your playoff life is on the line. You keep it at 2-0. You have a 1-0 game and your playoff life is on the line. You keep it at 1-0 and find a way to scratch out a run. That's how you win those games. It's easy to win when you belt the ball all over the ballpark. Everybody's having a great time. You win 12-6. Terrific. Are you going to fight for the other wins or not? Inexperience might be a factor here. The Red Sox lack some mental toughness. Maybe. Luis Garcia is 37. I'd like to think he could keep pulling on the rope. That one today should irritate you the way that thing went down. It's like the Red Sox were just interested in getting that game over with and played the scheduled game because they didn't want to play 2 in one day after losing 3 in a row to the Diamondbacks. I'll say it again, though. I don't think they're dead yet. I don't. There's still enough time to get your ass in gear, win some games. The Twins and the Royals have to play one another, so someone's going to lose 2 during that series, at least 2. You can still make up some ground. It's not over yet. But again, that's a question of mental toughness. If they want it to be over, it can be over. John's in Hampton Beach. All right, John is... I'm going to put John back on hold. I don't know what the hell just happened here, Jimmy. Let's go to Christopher in Somerville. Christopher, what do you got?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I love the show. So I know you were talking about how you thought if they were done or not. I'm just looking at the schedule. So they got these 3 games against Toronto. Then they're at Detroit and at the Mets and 3 games against the White Sox. So you got 12 games right there against teams that, you could probably go 9-3, 10-2 if you really play it. The White Sox are, on pace to be the worst team of all time. So, I would say if they lose tonight or tomorrow, then they might be cooked. But if they can pull out a 9-3 or 10-2 record, they can probably get within 2 games the rest of the way.
So, Christopher, look, the one thing I'm wary of at the Red Sox, and you're not wrong to look at the schedule, the one thing I'm wary of is that they went into Houston and they won 2 games. They played them here and they lost 3. Arizona comes in, they lose 3. Fine, the Diamondbacks are good, but then Toronto comes in, they lose. Texas comes in. It looks like they're going to sweep them, and they kind of let go of the rope in the finale of that game. So is this a schedule problem? Are Arizona and Houston coming in here and beating them? Is that a schedule problem or is that a Red Sox problem? Cora today mentioned the youth. These guys have never done this before. They're young. Like for the first time, he mentioned their youth. He has said young team in the past, but he's never really attributed any of their struggles or failures to the fact that they're inexperienced. Or he certainly has never given any indication. I should rephrase. He has never given any indication that they felt the pressure. Maybe inexperience, making sloppy errors, poor decisions on the field, those sorts of things relate to inexperience. But he's never suggested that they're feeling the heat. Today, for the first time after the game, he made it sound like maybe they're squeezing the bats a little too tight. And is that because they're just slumping? Or is that because it's late in the year and now all of a sudden every pitch matters? Because the way he said it had more to do with the fact that it's late in the year. Frank in Boston. Frank, what do you got?
Yeah, hi. Bigger picture question about the Sox foibles at home. When you have a ballpark like Fenway, you're supposed to build the team to take advantage of the home park. The idea is that by doing that, it gives you a bigger advantage at home than you sacrifice on the road, so it net wins you games. I looked at the numbers. All their World Series winning teams were dominant at home.
Tremendously dominant.
Right. This is now meant to be a very analytically inclined front office, yet they've built a team that's a fail at home, which flies in the face of what analytics tells you. So my question is, do we think this is how it ended up because they were bad at their jobs and got it all wrong, just like a lot of their player evaluations and trades, or is it a function of the budget and they now sign guys to the team not based on how good they might be, but based on how good of a deal they think they're getting? I think it's both, but I'm curious what you guys think.
Well, so look, it's an interesting question, but here's what I would tell you. That typically, if you want to hit well at Fenway Park, you go out and get yourself some left-handed hitters. It's a left-handed hitter's ballpark. Years ago, the myth, the theory was that it's better for right-handed hitters because of the wall. The wall benefits lefties more than righties. So, and as Jimmy Stewart pointed out, the real what's the word I'm looking for? The real variable in the home struggles is the pitching ERA. Their pitching ERA on the road is about 1.5 better than it is at home. Well, their starting rotation's entirely right-handed. Who's pitching tonight? Is it Rich Hill? Is he going to start tonight?
No, Zach Kelly's starting a bullpen game.
Okay, all right. So it's going to be another right-hander in Zach Kelly. Now, I mean, again, he's not a starter, but it's a bullpen game. But go through it. Pivetta, Crawford, Houck, Bayo. Who am I leaving out? Criswell's in there now, but you get the idea. There's no lefty starter in there. They could have used a lefty starter. They picked up Paxton. He got hurt. But they could have signed early on. They could have signed Montgomery, Jordan Montgomery. Blake Snell was on the market. They didn't go for those guys. So I would argue you're better off pitching a lefty at Fenway Park than a righty. That's just my feeling. So I don't know if it's totally that they didn't build the team to the ballpark. The pitching staff, maybe they didn't build to the ballpark. Because there is a history of, and maybe they just don't have good enough pitching, period. Maybe
Bruce Hurst, John Lester. Who else is in there?
Those guys won here. Nick in Providence. Nick, you know what, Nick? Hang on 1 second because I want to get to Marcelo Myers shortly. John in Hampton. Go ahead, John.
Hey, guys. Yeah. Well, first off, as you mentioned, Koskas, and then the thing is like when the ball went down the first, but he had an error before earlier in the game where it went under his glove that it could have been a double play that it cost the Red Sox run or a couple runs. But the thing is, what I'm calling about is because you guys are on the subject about hitting and stuff, the Red Sox. And as we've talked before, Mazz, about the Red Sox, first and second, they can't even move a guy over to third with no outs. But recently, they're having like 10 strikeouts or more in a game. So if you look in the past 10 games or since they can't even hit. They can't even make contact with the ball. They're striking out. You had O'Neill, Koska. These guys are taking third strike pitches. These guys aren't even swinging the bat. They're striking out right now in an abnormally high rate. Never mind hitting the ball in the park.
So, John, look, they struck out 11 more times today. They've had a high strikeout rate for much of the season. It was really, really bad early in the year. It got better for a little while. Now it feels like it's gotten worse again. Maybe that's just against good pitching teams. So, again, it felt to me like they struck out a crap ton in that series against the Astros. I think they struck out 40 times against the Astros in those 3 games. 40 strikeouts. And you know what? Now that I think of it, tell you what. Let's look up the series against against Arizona, and see if we can get the exact strikeout numbers in the series against the Diamondbacks. Because I'd be willing to bet that they probably had a bad series against Arizona as well, striking out. And in fact, they struck out 33 times in the 3 games against Arizona. And to the caller's point, boy, the strikeouts have been high. Holy crap. Let's see. In their last 21 games, the Red Sox have struck out 220 times, which is an average of about 10.5 a game. I'm just doing that off the top of my head, but something like that. 10.5 strikeouts a game. I mean, maybe that's closer to the major league average than I think. But they've been one of the worst teams in the big leagues when it comes to making contact.
So, Tony, one other thing about why they might be struggling at Fenway, and it should be nice and easy home road splits for team things like, I don't know, fielding. They lead the majors in errors, 92 errors, and that's by 8 over the Reds. Maybe they're not catching the ball at Fenway Park and making the play. And Fenway Park historically has not been a ballpark where you want to give teams extra outs on.
Okay, so again, Jimmy.
But I can't find the actual numbers because Baseball Reference blows.
Okay, so look, I would tell you, though, that in the same breath, we were talking about ERA, right? Okay, that's earned runs.
So how many unearned runs at Fenway Park?
So maybe a chunk. I mean, they made another misplay today. I think there are a lot of variables that come into play in this. It's usually not one thing whenever we look at these kinds of problems. So I think there are a lot of things that factor in. The defense is part of it. The pitching is part of it. They are right-handed heavy on the staff. They are left-handed heavy in the lineup. There's also the matter of the Red Sox pitching philosophy, which brings me to, in my estimation, the low point of the weekend. The low point, which we will get to when we come back. Kevin Majori will get you caught up on headlines. Don't go anywhere.
force it along. Perdomo will score. And the Red Sox have walked 4 Diamondbacks here in this inning. It is 3-0. This one forces home a run. And that skips away from long, and another run is home. In to score Guillorme. They move up to second and third, and it is 4-0.
It's been a tough one back there for Connor Wong today. He's had a lot of balls spiked. This one just didn't get it out in front.
Yeah, that can't happen, Nuke, in my opinion. You
Got to go get that. Yep, he's got to go get that ball.
Can't let it come to you. Got to go get it.
That's a big run.
They don't get a hit in the inning, but they scored 2 times. 4-0 Arizona.
So this, to me, was a low point of the weekend. I know that blowing a 4-0 lead qualifies. I don't mean to make that exempt. But this part of it, to me, drove me freaking bananas on Saturday. Let me just give you because this relates to Andrew Bailey, the pitching philosophy, all kinds of stuff. And frankly, what I would call just basically a lack of balls on the part of the pitching staff. This has been true all year long with the way they pitch. It's a passive way of pitching. Okay, the Red Sox don't pitch aggressively. They pitch passively. Instead of pitching to their strengths, they try to pitch to your weaknesses. There's a difference. And you do that when you don't have confidence in your own guys, which they don't, and maybe they shouldn't. Maybe their personnel's not good enough, but you get the idea. So, just quickly, Derek in Alabama wants to talk about Andrew Bailey. Chris in Hartford wants to talk about the pitching. Bob in Chestnut Hill wants to talk about the Red Sox overall. Nick wants to get to Marcelo Meyer. We'll do all that, so sit tight. But let me just tell you this. Lucas Sims came in to the 7th inning of a game over the weekend, and the score was 2-0. Sims' first pitch of the game. Jimmy, Sims has had a couple of outings this year. Last week, if you remember, I railed about an outing in which Sims threw 20 of his 23 pitches were what? Do you remember?
Sweepers.
Sweepers, or basically off speed that moved away from a right-handed hitter.
Junk.
Very few fastballs. Okay, very few true fastballs. So Lucas Sims came into the game on Saturday. You know what he did? First pitch, what do you think it was?
Sweeper?
Good guess. Fastball.
Oh.
Fastball, because it means the Red Sox recognized that teams were sitting on their breaking stuff.
Or he went rogue.
Strike one. He then threw a cutter for strike two. So he started going back. I call cutter off speed. It's not really off speed, but it's a ball that breaks away from a right-handed hitter. Then, after that, another fastball. 2 of his first 3 pitches were fastball. How many more fastballs do you think we saw?
2.
1.
Oh.
Sweeper, sweeper. Curve, cutter, cutter. Sweeper, cutter, cutter, curve. 4-seam fastball, cutter, cutter. Of his last 8 pitches, 4 of them were balls. He walked 2 guys after getting it out.
Isn't your fastball you're supposed to be your best pitch?
Okay, so this is my point. It's the easiest pitch probably, not for everybody, and I shouldn't even say it this way, but in theory, throw a fastball. I think it's your best chance to throw a strike, particularly if you throw 197. He threw 1. He walked 2 guys. Now, flying in the face of that argument, Bernardino comes in the game. Bernardino throws no 4-seam fastballs. Very few. He throws 2-seamers, sinkers, and then he throws curves and sliders. So Bernardino comes in the game. He then completely loses it. Bernardino, let me get this right. Bernardino comes in, gets up 0-2, walks a guy. Then Carroll comes to the plate. They walk him on 5 pitches to force in the run. Then he bounces one and another run comes in. But the whole point is the thing started with Lucas Sims on the mound, showing fastball 2 of his first 3 pitches just to plant the seed, but then never went back to it. Couldn't hit the side of a barn. The Red Sox walk in 2 runs, or walk in 1 run, throw a wild pitch to allow the second. Arizona scores 2 runs without putting the ball in play. 2 runs in a 2-0 game when you're fighting for a playoff spot because you don't trust your pitchers to throw fastballs. Now, let's go to the calls. Derek in Alabama on Andrew Bailey. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah. How is it that Andrew Bailey keeps avoiding criticism for the pitching meltdown? I mean, you're the only person I've heard criticizing Mazz.
Okay, so Derek, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think he should be taking more criticism. I think their pitching philosophy blows. And look, I understand analytics rule everything. So the whole premise of Andrew Bailey's pitching philosophy was early in the year, he was quoted as saying, if you look at what the damage is done, most time it's done on fastballs. True. Tell me what the count is. So is the damage on fastball on a 3-1 count? Is it because you're getting behind? And how are you getting behind? Are you getting behind the way Lucas Sims gets behind? By throwing off speed or by not throwing your true fastball? Your four-seamer? Is that how you're falling behind? Bernardino, I wouldn't say he's a bad strike thrower because he's not. The walks are between 3.5 and 4 walks per 9 innings with the Red Sox, but he's not a precision pinpoint guy. You put guys on base against him, there's always a chance he's going to walk someone. He's probably trying to get a double play initially to get out of that inning. But you get the idea, or a ground ball. I get it. But by then, the match had been lit. So I just don't like the philosophy of the way they pitch. Which brings me to Chris in Hartford, who brings up a good point. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so last week, Tanner was on the mound in Houston. He threw about 40% sinkers, okay? He went away from it because he's at Fenway. Or whoever is calling the pitches went away from it at Fenway. The foundation is the inside part location. And that's the problem with Crawford. Their out pitch for Tanner, it's supposed to be the slider. But if you don't go ahead, I don't care if it's a strike or not, you have to change the viewpoint. He's afraid to throw the sinker at Fenway. And then later in the innings, you see these guys, they're not fooled on the slider. They hang it, and all they're doing is extending their arms. It's the easiest thing. You know it. You played ball. I did. They allowed them real quick. That's a quick rally, and that slider that kid hit about 400 feet. It's just who's calling the pitchers, Mazz? This is ass backwards. I played small
Chris,
D1.
Chris, I'm going to let you go because it doesn't matter where you played. Okay, with all due respect, it doesn't matter where you played. But your general premise, I think, is something close to the truth. Okay, they don't throw inside. The off-speed stuff can work if you set it up. If you just keep throwing sliders and then you hang one, the guy knows the slider's coming and he's going to wait for you to hang one because eventually you will, and then he's going to hit it 500 feet. You're talking about the 3-run homer Suarez hit over the weekend. So I would tell you they've become predictable, and the variety of the pitches is what sets them up. So if you make a guy uncomfortable on the inner half of the plate, if Tanner Houck is throwing his sinker inside to right-handed batters, they don't want to deal with it. It handcuffs them. It's a power pitch to right-handed batters. Brian Bayo's the same way. The sinker should be a power pitch, assuming he can locate it. Bayo can't necessarily do that all the time. But even so, the ability to tie those guys up, Bayo's two-seamer is like a freaking bowling ball. It gets in there, it ties those guys up when he's got it right. The same is true of Houck. Then you throw the slider away because these guys are guarding against that two-seamer in, and now they can't cover the plate. But if you are afraid to throw your sinker in, or you can't do it effectively, and you're just going to keep throwing sliders because that's what the analytics tell you, then you know what I start to wonder? If you're just going by the numbers and you don't know the first thing about pitching, I'm really starting to question whether Andrew Bailey has a clue or whether he just pitches paint by number. It used to be, and Jimmy Stewart said this earlier in the year, Jimmy Stewart said, up and in, down and away. You used to set guys up, move it around the strike zone. So come in, tie him up, break him ball away. Now the guy's thinking, I got to protect the inner part of the plate because you jammed him, and you throw a slider away, and now you're lunging and you miss the ball by a foot. but you force the hitter to cover the entire plate. Now you know what they do? Andrew Bailey looks at the stat sheet and says, oh, most of the damage comes on the fastball, so we're not going to throw it. Does it mention fastball in, fastball off the plate, fastball behind in the count? Because if you get yourself into a 3-1 count and you throw a fastball, the hitter's sitting fastball. Of course, so if you want to throw a slider 3-1, great. But if you miss, now you put the guy on base. So I would argue fastballs early in the count, get ahead, then throw your off-speed stuff. Or if you have a guy that can throw his off-speed stuff for strikes, pitch backwards. Fine. Whatever. It starts with throwing pitches for strikes and getting ahead in the count. And if they know you're going to throw sliders all the time, they're going to sit slider. The Red Sox are predictable. They don't pitch to their pitcher's strengths. They pitch passively. It works against bad teams and bad competition. And maybe it works because you have bad pitchers. I'm telling you, if and when they build a staff, if they still pitch this way, the pitching coach has got to go. I would rather have a staff with stuff that pitches conventionally than this half-assed, ass-backwards bullcrap. Because that's what this is. Let me squeeze in one more call here. Bob in Chestnut Hill. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, guys. I think you're overthinking it just a little bit. I think fundamentally it comes down to the fact they don't have enough pitching talent. They didn't do enough in the offseason. The bums they picked up at the trading deadline are not good enough. The reason they go at Fenway Park is as a small ballpark, it magnifies the effect of poor pitching.
It's not a small ballpark. It's a small ballpark in terms of being cramped. It's huge to center and right center. And right. Down the line and right is short, but that's, it goes out very quickly. Fenway Park in center and right is big. Do you know it's not a home run ballpark? Never has been. It's a doubles ballpark because it's spacious. And the left field wall takes away as many homers as it gives. When's the last time you saw, how many really legitimately cheap home runs have you seen hit at Fenway? I would tell you, not that many. How many legitimately cheap doubles have you seen? A crap ton. Fly balls that scrape the wall. Line drives that would be caught in other ballparks that the left fielder has to turn around and back up because it's going to hit the wall because it's so damn close. It's a cheap doubles park. It's not a cheap home run park. And again, other teams can hit here just fine. So the Red Sox pitching staff admittedly gives up some doubles at Fenway. Yes. I would agree with you on that. I think that part is true. The way they pitch is lame. It's soft. They pitch soft. Soft teams don't usually win the World Series. They don't. I want to get to Marcelo Meyer, and then we'll wrap it up when we come back in the Baseball Hour. For those of you who did not hear, Marcelo Meyer, the first and original member of the Big Three, because was Roman Anthony the same draft, Jimmy Stewart? I don't know.
Well,
Anyway.
Mayer would have been the higher pick.
Yeah, he was the number 4 pick.
So it's like who was born first. If twins are born, you use time
Yes.
as the standard.
He's the oldest of the triplets. We're going to go with that. Teal was just drafted a year ago, but Marcelo Meyer, part of the Big Three, the number 4 pick in the draft, first selection under Chaim Bloom, I think. No, I take that back. Nick York was, but the first major selection under Chaim Bloom. How about that? Out for the season. Will not play again this year, which brings me to Nick in Providence. Go ahead, Nick. Nick, are you there? Nick? No sign of Nick. Okay, let's go to Stephen Weymouth on the Red Sox pitching staff. Go ahead, Steve.
Coward.
Hey, Mazz. You're not going to remember this, but when I heard you talking about the fastball and off-speed stuff, I went back to a conversation that you and I had back in April when Chris Martin was getting absolutely shelled. And it was because of the fact that the pitching staff and Andrew Bailey had this idea that, well, Martin, when he throws his fastball, the very small sample size we have, he gets shelled. So let's just have him throw off-speed stuff. And that worked for like 3 months when your pitchers were really sharp and everybody was healthy and the arms were healthy. But now their arms are wearing down. They don't have the same sharpness. And what happens is that, as you said earlier, guys are going to be more likely to hang breaking balls and breaking stuff. And it's just this idea of, well, in these small sample sizes, fastballs and pitches like that get hit really hard. So let's just take that out of the equation completely. And that just takes out the entire human element of baseball. And it's so annoying.
I know. Isn't it maddening, Nick? It really is. Here's the other thing, too. Can I give you one of the great myths of hold on one second. Stephen Weymouth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I got the wrong guy. I must have dropped.
No, you're good.
I dropped the wrong guy. Sorry. I dropped the other caller. That was my mistake. So here's one of the great myths about fastballs get hit the farthest or with the most damage. They probably do get hit with the most damage because they were the most common pitch at that time. And also, particularly in a hitter's count. You get into a hitter's count, what's the pitcher's going to do? 3-1, I don't want to walk the guy. I'm going to pipe a fastball. He gets belted. Fine, no problem. You know what ball gets hit the farthest? I'd be willing to bet this. The hanging slider. And I remember this because I've had conversations with players about it. Said, well, does a fastball go the farthest? Oh, no. No, slider. Breaking ball out in front. But more than a curve, a fastball, but a hanging breaking ball can also get pulverized. Really? Yeah, why is that? Because you can get the head of the bat out front. You can get out front of it and really you hit it in the sweet spot. So again, a fastball, of course you can crush it. Yes, fast in, fast out. But a hanging slider, not only that, a hanging slider allows someone with a slower bat to get the head of the bat out. So, Doug Mirabelli, love him to death. If you remember him, he was the catcher for Tim Wakefield, defensive-minded guy, backup guy, made his career on being a good receiver. Mirabelli had a little power. You know what he couldn't hit? Fastball, a good one. But if you hung him a slider, he could crush it. Because 88 miles an hour in his zone. So you hang him a slider in the middle of the plate, see you later. Now, the analytics would have told you that too. But you get the idea. There are some guys that if you just keep throwing breaking balls to, you make them better hitters, not worse ones. So, simply put, the other thing is I do believe in the whole idea of the pitcher should be the aggressor. He should not be passive. Pitching is a proactive act. Hitting is a reactive act. So if the pitcher takes a passive approach, the hitter can be more aggressive. Does that make sense? I hate the idea of making hitters aggressive. Hate it. And I think it's blowing up in Andrew Bailey's face. And I think the Red Sox need to take a serious look at the way they pitch in their pitching coach, unless they somehow end up with the best breaking ball pitchers in the history of the sport. Joe Murray has got your, for the balance of the night. Kevin Majori's got your headlines. We'll catch you next time.
Got WBZ-FM and HD Boston. We've got the Patriots covered.
Back to the home. He's in trouble. A sack.
It's an all